Hello everyone and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we're going to learn how we can join all of those CSV files that we just created. We got them from blockchain.com/charts. Now join me at collab.research.google.com. Here is where we can code online in Python. All you need is a Google account, Gmail, in order to start coding in Python right here on the web. So you don't have to download or install any software. Once you've made it to Google Colab, create a new Colab and hit the folder icon here. Inside of sample data, we are going to upload our CSV files. So you can delete all of these sample data sets. Notice that they're also CSV files. These are actually added by Google into Colab by default, so you could actually use them inside of any projects you wanted, but we want to specifically choose our own CSV files. So click on the three ellipses next to sample data and hit upload. Then select all of your CSV files from your computer and hit open. This is going to upload all of those CSV files right here into sample data. So now we can use them inside of our Colab. Just note that anytime you refresh the page, you will have to re-upload them, because this is only per runtime. So just take note of that. You can upload them permanently, for example, to your Google Drive, and then just link the Colab to your Google Drive. You can also host them online and grab them from online as well, but this is just the easiest way. All right, so we have our CSV files inside of our project. Now we can collapse the folder icon, and we are going to be able to access these CSV files. For example, let's access one of them. First, we have to import pandas, which is a library for building data frames with Python. Then we can use pandas.read.csv. This allows us to open up a CSV file in Python. For example, all we have to do is reference it by its name, and it's also location. For example, we could grab something like hash rate, click on the three dots next to it and hit copy path, and then paste that path inside of quotation marks because it's a string. And pandas is going to read the CSV file at that path. And look at this, we now have our CSV file represented as a pandas data frame, a table here. We have the timestamp and we have the hash rate. So we've taken the CSV file and we've just looked at it in a data frame view. Next, I am going to loop through all of our CSV files, and I'm going to be able to join them together or merge them. All right, so for this, first we need to grab all of our files. Let's make a new code cell here. I'm going to create a new list named files. Initially, it's just going to be an empty list. Then I'm going to import OS, which allows me to access my file directory. And I'm going to loop for every file inside of my files. So I'll say for every file in os.walk of dot, which just refers to the sample data folder. I'm going to loop for every file name in my file. Oh, and just make sure this is files. I'm going to check if the file name ends with CSV. That means it's a CSV file. We want to ignore all the other ones. Just make sure this is an underscore as well for file name. And if that's the case, I'm going to take my files and append the file name. And then we can print out files at the end of this just to verify that we did it. Hit run on this code cell and look at that. We now have a list of strings. Each string refers to the name of the CSV file that we uploaded. All right, now we're going to loop through that list of names, and we're going to merge them all into one table. So let's make another code cell, and we're going to loop for every file in files. All right, first we have to check if the table is none. And table, we initially are going to set this to null. Or none, same as null. We're going to create a table, and this is our table of data. So you could also call it your data frame if you'd like. All right, so we have our data frame. Initially, it's empty. So if it is empty, then we have to create it. So we have to take data frame and use pandas.readCSV. We have to pass in the file, the current file, and we can pass in the names. In our case, we want the time column, and that's going to be the timestamp column. So we call it time or timestamp, doesn't matter. And we want to call file.replace.csv with an empty string. So we're going to remove its extension. All right, so now we're going to test that out. We can paste out the data frame at the end. You'll notice that we get the message, no such file or directory, transaction fees.csv. And all you have to do is actually include the path to the file, which is /content/CSV. So you can't just use the file name, you have to include the path. And we can add that as a formatted string here. Just put the file variable in curly brackets and add an F in front of the string. Make sure you do wrap the string in quotation marks. And now we can run this code cell. And okay, here we have it. We have our data frame, which has the time and the transaction fees column. Note that that's just one column. So how do we put in the other columns? Well, what we have to do is check what if the data frame is not none. What if the data frame has a column in it? If that's the case, the data frame exists and we need to add another column to it. So we'll use an else statement here. We're going to take the data frame and we're going to use pandas.merge to merge our initial existing data frame with our temporary data frame. So we're going to create a temporary data frame for each column that we come to. To create a temporary data frame, we'll use pandas.readCSV again. Again, we're going to put in the file name, including its path. And again, we call names and we pass in the time. So we're doing the exact same thing that we just did. The difference being this time, we are going to be creating it as a temporary data frame because we want to merge it with our pre-existing data frame. So now if I run my code cell, look at that. I have a lot more columns. I have all of my columns that correspond to my CSV files, my transaction fees, difficulty, output volume, hash rate, cost per transaction percent, miners revenue, market price, and N transactions total, number of transactions total. You can also scroll down and see how many you have. You have 365 rows because we got 1 year of data, and each row is a day. Then we have 9 columns because we have 9 different features. All right, and we are going to be attempting to predict market price in this example using the other features. All right, so that is how you can merge your data frames. Merge your CSV files with Python. So you can do it algorithmically instead of having to do it manually with something like Excel or Sheets. All right, coming up, we are going to process our data frame because now that we've created it, we need to clean it up a little bit. Often the data you collect will be noisy or in the wrong format, or it just needs to be reshaped. And that is what we're going to work on in our next lecture. So head on over there.